pupusa. Pupusa. I think I'm saying it right. Alright, so growing up in restaurant kitchens, it's safe to say that I was surrounded by some kind of Latino influence. Mexican, Guatemalan, El Salvadorian, you name it. And I've tasted pretty much everything. But let's be honest here, I'm Greek. What the hell do I know about pupusa? So here's the short answer. I trust my palate, and I'm pretty sure I know what's going on here. But with that being said, this is my first time making these bad boys. So for any El Salvadorians out there watching this video, be easy on me in the comments. It's my first time. So let's go into the kitchen. This El Salvadorian staple grabbed my attention at first bite. The crispy sweetness from that homemade tortilla, stuffed with salty refried beans, and that pull from that milky mozzarella. They've gained a little buzz on the local food scene in the past few years. They're fun and they're easy to get hooked on. So like I said, I trust my palate, but the flavors aren't what I'm worried about here. It's the technique, forming the pupusa by hand, stuffing them, and getting it flat enough, but I think I'm ready. So let's get started with the filling. For the refried beans, I'm using 15 ounces of canned black beans, 1 white onion, 2 cloves of garlic, 1 cup of lazy chicken stock. Okay, I call it lazy because it's not really chicken stock. I'm using one of those bouillon cubes with 1 cup of hot water. And I don't usually cook with these things, but they're packed with MSG and full of flavor. And then 1 cup of vegetable oil. Start by sauteing the onions on high heat until lightly charred. Now off heat, I added in the rest of the ingredients. Bring that up to a simmer and let it cook for 15 minutes. And now it's time to pull out the blender. If your blender gets stuck here, just add in a little more chicken stock or some of that leftover liquid from the beans. Pour that back into the hot pan until the beans reduce to the right thickness. You want it pretty thick. I would say a little thicker than hummus. Adjust the seasoning with salt and pepper and then pull it off to the side and let it cool down. Now for the cheese. The easiest way is just to go with the shredded mozzarella. And honestly, that's what the El Salvadorian girl uses downstairs when she makes them. Comes out great. But I wanted something with a little more flavor, so I decided to go with a Mexican Oaxaca cheese and mix that with a little queso blanco. Okay, so now it's time to move on to the scary part, the dough. Okay, so I have to admit, this is where I messed up. I started the recipe using only 2 cups of water, but I added the 3rd cup because I had to go back once everything was formed out. My dough was just way too crumbly. So I put it all back into the bowl and we move on from there. 3 cups of Maseca brand corn flour. It's like a real fine powder. 3 teaspoons of salt. 3 cups of hot water. And 2 tablespoons of olive oil. So mix that all together by hand until it thickens up, but it's still pliable and a little sticky. And let that rest for 15 minutes uncovered. So to form these out, I used an ice cream scooper to get them all the same size. And then I grabbed a little bowl with 1 cup of water and 1 cup of oil, just so they won't stick to my hands. So get your hands nice and lubed up and grab one of the dough balls. You want to roll it around in your hands and pack it nice and tight. Now with your thumb, make a nice size indent right in the center of the dough. And using your index finger to help, you want to make a cup like this, deep enough for the filling to go into. Now this part right here took me a while to figure out. And like I said, this is my second batch of dough. The first one was just way too dry, way too crumbly. And with the second batch of dough, the dough was way more pliable, but also a little sticky, which helped seal up those cracks. I added a little spoon of those cooled down beans, then a good pinch of the cheese on top. So with this dough recipe, I should have got about 8 equal sized pupusas, but I decided to put one on the side for this next part right here. So to seal off the cup, I broke off a piece of the dough from the extra ball and pinched it closed to the edges of the cup. Now I started to flatten it out gently, pressing and rotating back and forth from hand to hand. I think I could have gone a little thinner here, but I decided to pump on the brakes and stop while I was ahead. So once you got them all flattened out, grab a cast iron pan and crank up the heat. This part kind of reminded me of making that first pancake, so adjust your heat until you find that nice sweet spot. Add a little vegetable oil and fry them off until they get a nice deep golden brown color and the cheese starts to melt out. All right, it's time. Let's eat. Traditionally, this is served with a spicy cabbage slaw called curtido, but I like them just the way they are with a little hot sauce. Oh, it's fucking hot. I made a version of the curtido in a previous episode. I'll link it right up top. And that's a wrap. My first take on the El Salvadorian classic, pupusa. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I did run into a little trouble with the dough, but I was able to correct it. And overall, I think it was a pretty successful day. And like I said, I would have liked them a little thinner, but there's always next time. And I can't wait to make this for my daughter. Thank you for watching the video. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Give this video a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. Oh yeah. It's got a nice pull. It's creamy. Out of this world.